Hey guys, Mike 5 from Lights and Lines here, introducing this week's episode of the Innately podcast. This week we're talking about politics in music. Is there a place for politics in music? I mean, yeah, surely, definitely. But isn't music innately political anyway? Isn't everything political? What is non-political? Well, look, we'll find out, I guess, in the episode. We're going to discuss all of that kind of stuff. It's good fun. Plus, we wander off into all sorts of other areas pretty quickly, ranging from The Simpsons all the way through to the blandness of non-offensive generic mainstream music. It's definitely a good one. Plus, you can look out for a bonus outtake from this same recording coming to a podcast app near you very soon. If you enjoy our ramblings from behind the scenes at an independent record label, please do hit subscribe and tell your friends. Cheers.
So today we're talking about politics in music, and is there really a place for politics in music? Is there any other kind of music other than political music? We're going to break that down now, and we're going to talk it out. So I'd say, Mike, you're a good person to kick this off. What do you reckon?
So I'm a massive fan of music being political, having a message and a purpose and a point, and I think there's a much broader conversation. Everything is political, right? Whether you like it or not. Politics affects all of society. But I'm a big fan of protest music. I'm a big fan of, you go right back into people working in rice fields, kind of chanting to get through the day, and the power that kind of has. To when we look back and reflect on how shit slavery was, obviously, and all that kind of stuff. But
I heard it was pretty bad. Yeah,
it's terrible. Bad things happen. But also, just like, I don't know, I feel like music is a way of communicating with the world that's relatively uncensored, in the fact that anyone, we talked before on previous episodes, anyone can really kind of write a song and sing it. You can sing it in the back room of a pub, and that group of people might hear it. I think it's an incredible way to put your voice out, put your feelings out there. And do you know what? There's a million love songs, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'd much rather listen to someone saying something about something they're angry about, and I'd rather get on board with that. And it's a great way to learn about things. I mean, I've learned about all sorts of things from people writing songs about it. So I'm a big fan. There's no counter argument from me. Music should be political. Music is innately political. People are political whether they like it or not. And it is, all around that kind of culture of bringing people together, and standing behind, one voice, one idea, one feeling, and music is critical to that. What I will say to add to that is, if you're a Simpsons fan and you remember that song that Lisa sings outside the power plant when they all go on strike, that to me epitomizes why political music is so incredible, because it's just a beautifully written, just amazing song that makes you go, wow, how powerful is that? So that's kind of where I'm at. The Simpsons did it, so we should all do it.
I think the only Simpsons music moment that really sticks in my head, and is in my head a lot, is the bit where Homer blows into the saxophone and goes, saxophone. And although that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, it still somehow feels relevant. But
I think it's the line, something about they have the plant, but we have the power.
But we have the power, yeah.
Isn't that incredible? It's so good.
No, we are absolutely in my wheelhouse. I literally have a friend, and we almost communicate exclusively in Simpsons quotes. Basically, from about season 2 right through to season 12, season 13, it's just like, I've watched them so many fucking times. Like, as you could plainly see there now, when I was literally riffing along with you two, the only bits that you seem to be able to remember, and it's just, I'm even rewatching season 4 at the moment.
There's others. There's a friend of mine from uni, and we will sort of add extra bits to our text messages, and it will literally say things like, that's the joke, and all that kind of thing. And if you and that's a really obscure Simpsons reference from really early on.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what do you call him? Rainier Wolf Castle
that's
doing
it. That's it.
stand up.
Yeah. Basically being fake Arnie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A friend of mine we do the obscure Simpsons bits that people don't usually talk about, and one of his favorite ones is just Homer going through the convention about ways to make money, and there's a guy called Royce McCutcheon doing about going to the moon. It's like and when you get to the moon and you find some of that moon money, don't forget to get some for your old pal me, Royce McCutcheon. Homer's just passing by; he's not anything to do with this at all, and he just stops and just shouts to the crowd. He goes, "No dice, McCutcheon, that moon money's mine."
Something that always sticks to my head is Principal Skinner. I can't remember what episode it is. It's one of the later seasons, and they're in the school grounds, and it's something to do with rats or something like that. And his line is "chew through my ball sack," and that always sticks to my head as well. I don't know why.
It's the snow days when they get frozen into the school. It's
there
that,
you
and,
go.
and he gets tied up in the sack, and it's the gerbil.
Yes.
The gerbil gets out of its cage, and he's trying to encourage the hamster to chew through it. Yeah,
I'm impressed with your Simpsons knowledge there, Grim.
Oh man, it's to the point. It's like kind of like my comfort thing. I literally just watch it over and over again to the point where it might be the reason that Lady Grimm throws me out at this point. If I start watching The Simpsons again, she's just like, I can't take it anymore. I cannot take it anymore. Right,
anyway, season 3 again.
Yeah,
we've massively gone off track. Sorry, I was
going to go back to politics and music. But I was going to go back to say something about politics and music, about what you were talking about, Mike. And you were talking about, love songs are great, but you would much rather, a song about politics and stuff. But this is the thing, right? What is music about? What are songs about? Songs are about the human experience, right? So like so many songs are written about love and sex and drugs and having a good time and all that there. But eventually some fucking slippery, slimy, lizardy bastard in a fucking suit and whatever fucking house of politics in the world will stand up and make any of those things political. They'll make love who you love, how you love, the concept of the family unit, blah 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 blah. That will become political. Drugs are fucking insanely political. Because they're always talking about some nonsense war on drugs, as if it's the drugs that are the problem. All these things eventually become political. So people that say, "Oh, if you're a musician, we'll stop talking about politics and stick to music." Well, fuck off with that kind of stuff. Everything eventually gets political. So what do you want them to sing about? What is non-political that a musician could sing about that will appease you and your fucking stupid meathead and your, you know what I mean, conservative views?
Do you know what? This is why, we've sort of done an episode of this where we talk about popular music not being very good, I think, or we've definitely talked about it in different places. But part of the reason that I don't think popular music is very good at the moment is because it's very bland and safe and no one wants to offend anyone. And it just kind of feels like government-approved bubblegum pop. Like it's kind of shit. And I think
this
we
is
should
what I
do
was...
better.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say, actually, in that I was going to sort of present what I think is the counter-argument to music being political, or maybe not, or maybe just another way of thinking about it. Not saying I agree with this, just presenting the viewpoint here, okay? No, I'll get to how I feel in a minute, but
Boo Earns. I think he's saying Boo Earns.
Oh, this is going to be full of Simpsons references, isn't it? All the way through this episode. No, what I was going to say is that I think that by and large, the sort of like general message that songwriters are given these days through all of the in quote unquote advice that you receive is about you should be trying to write something timeless, right? You should be trying to write something that speaks to as wide an audience as possible and everybody, something that everybody can empathize with. And what happens is that your viewpoint just becomes so watered down that it's basically nothing that you're saying at all. right? Because that's the safest way to get a bigger audience is to create something that appeals to all these people, right? And the only way to appeal to loads of people is either, I suppose, with like total vitriolic hate, because you want to sort of like gather all the fucking bastards together and they'll be your crew, you know, or you just go real bland with, as you were saying, the love songs and all, you know, all of that lot. But there is a strong movement towards saying nothing at all, I feel, these days. And I strongly rally against it. However, what I would say is that when I listen to some of the heavily political, very specific songs and protest songs that people like, for example, Neil Young wrote or Dylan wrote in the 60s, or even somebody like Billy Bragg, what happens is that those songs become real time capsules, don't they? They become, so in a way you date your songs really easily if you're talking about, I don't know, for example, the coal miners crisis or something like that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I'm
not saying it's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is that that's the psychology, I think, behind there not being as many political songs in the mainstream now as it appears there used to be. That's my perception of it anyway, although I have to admit I don't listen to a great deal of popular music these days. I don't spend a great deal of time listening to what's in the charts. Do you know what I mean? So for all I know, there could be a fucking amazing political movement happening right this second, and I wouldn't know about it. But yeah, so for myself, and anyone who thinks that my music isn't political obviously isn't listening hard enough and paying enough attention. But what I was going to say is that how I feel right now at this moment in 2025 is that I'm angry. I am seriously fucking angry at the state of the world, right? And to some extent, I've always been angry at the state of the world ever since I was old enough to understand what was going on, you know, with geopolitics and countries imposing their ideas and ideologies on destabilizing regimes and starting wars and killing people. And you know, as long as I've understood that, I've been angry. But now, right now in 2025, I feel absolutely incensed, but at the same time I feel like a level of frustration that I've never felt before, because I don't feel like practically that I can do anything useful. And I think that a lot of us feel like that at the moment, right? And I think that a lot of us are also saddled with some guilt that we're able to enjoy some kind of a pleasant standard of life while people are dying in their fucking thousands just across the water. Do you know what I mean? But I think those of us who have any kind of creative bent are channeling all of that in the only way we know how, and that is to whatever our artistic direction is. So I think that, like, for example, the album that I'm recording now will probably be the angriest album that I've ever put out, just because that's how I feel right now, you know? I don't know how you two feel, but, well,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Exile on Main Street, are we?
No, I don't think it will probably be much more subtle than I'm making out, but it will be there if you know where to look. Do you know what I mean?
I do understand.
If it doesn't sound like Slipknot, I'm going to be disappointed.
And spoiler, you are going to be disappointed.
There's a song. I think that the name of the band is called the Acacia Strain, and it's proper. It's even heavier than Slipknot. You know, proper, just doom, thunderous metal and whatnot. But like, and it always makes me laugh. I can't remember the name of the song but there's just this lyric in it, which is life is beautiful, the world is pristine. But he's roaring it like life is beautiful, the world is pristine. And it's just it's the most ridiculous and hilarious and wonderful thing. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Gozer. I think that me and Lady Grim were chatting recently about this, actually just today. And the thing about it is, more so than I think in any other generation, what we've been robbed of is hope. And it's the bleakness of it all. There is a sense of being robbed of anything to aspire to. What's the point? You're never going to be here. This is never going to work out. The money, no, but there are 12 men that have all the money. You're never going to have any of that. You're never going to own a house. You're never, the environment's in tatters. All the economies are being swallowed up, and the only thing that you can have politically is more old white men in suits that seem to think that they deserve more. And it's the loss of hope that gets to me. And from that point of view, I think it makes complete sense that pop music is saying nothing. I think if you go back, you probably can see, and certain popular music does reflect that. People stop wanting to hear the political songs, the protest songs, the things like that. There, I heard this great story that Ben Elton told recently about whenever Thatcher was in power in the early 80s, and him and Billy Bragg and a couple of other kind of activist creatives were literally doing tours of all these towns to try and drum up support against the Tories and Thatcher and all the things that they were doing. And he literally said in the story, every town they went to overwhelmingly turned conservative during the next election. They overwhelmingly voted conservative in the next election. And he was just sort of like, does that mean that it's not worth trying or not worth doing it? No, things change, things swing. People can be easily led when they are hopeless and when they are angry and when they are frustrated. But that doesn't mean, because it's like you said, Gozer, you said about things being lost, they become encapsulated in their time and that type of thing. But I don't know that that's necessarily 100% true. I think they become a record of the time. Maybe that's a better way of looking at it. Like people can look at what comedians are saying, at what musicians are saying. In the future, whenever things calm down, they can look back and they go, do you know what? Everyone wasn't so angry that they were out voting against their best interests. There were people out there saying the stuff that, is the truth. That there are people out there that are saying the good things and that are understanding the good things. It wasn't all for naught kind of thing. I think on some level, maybe that's,
On that point, right, so music is a timestamp. It's a historical record of sorts. Right? Like, I've been listening to a lot of the Pogues this week, possibly because it was St. Patrick's Day. Now I think about it, that might have been why. But, their songs are, Shane MacGowan writes songs about Irish identity, about love, about loss, about rebellion, about being working class, about it's storytelling, right? It's raw and it's gritty. But, some of those songs are kind of things that were happening at the time, and that's only 30 odd years ago, 35 years ago, or whatever. Some of them are, they cover or do interpretations of traditional songs, talking about things that have happened in the past. But, it's the same with Neil Young and Bob Dylan and whoever. You listen to Ohio by Neil Young and you think, fuck, I hope that never happens again. That's a good thing. It doesn't date the song because the thing's already happened. It makes us go, we can't do this again. We cannot put people in this situation. I talked sort of not jokingly, but passively about slavery early. But the reality is, we never want to go back to that world. So having those songs and those things that remind us of what those people went through, I think is really important. So I think it's important to document what's happening as well as to protest against it in the moment, but you're documenting it for future generations. No one's going to remember who the fuck I am in 100 years, but everyone's going to remember Shane MacGowan, right? So he said something that's important that people will remember, and hopefully that has a bearing on the decisions people make. making.
He did, and what he said was Christmas Eve. Blah, blah. That's what he said.
Classic tune, of course. But there's so much in the Pogues, man.
There is.
Last week, it's been just really
some political music actually makes me sad now when I listen to it, because something like, for example, I'll tell you a song that I really struggle to get through now is If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next by the Manic Street Preachers, because I feel like we fucking did tolerate it, and our kids are having to tolerate it as well. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we failed that generation that grew up with that song, because we didn't bring about the kind of seismic change that we were hoping for.
And maybe that song's about the Spanish Civil War, isn't it?
Well, but it is and it isn't, isn't it? That's the whole point of it, is that it was very much about the times we were living in.
Well, look, Gozer, if you think you can do something about the Spanish Civil War now, please. By all means.
Hey, I believe anything is possible. So,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I suppose perhaps every generation sort of feels like they're failing the generation, or... Well, no, that's not true. Boomers don't seem to give a shit.
Isn't it like it's their generation that I feel pretty disappointed with as well, because like that whole like hippie love and peace movement seemed to just somehow go rotten on the vine, didn't it? And now we're looking at this sort of aftermath of that in that generation. Like all those people that grew up with peace and love or have seemingly become I'm not saying all of them, but obviously a lot of that generation appear to have missed the lessons of peace and love, don't they?
We can't blame the people though, right? This is the thing.
No.
People are beaten down by I suppose in that generation it's the Vietnam War, it's the nuclear crisis that followed, it's the all these things beat people down, and they try their best and they try to navigate and they try to find a way, and then they some of them are successful and they get something out of it, and some of them don't, and then they go old and they just go, oh well, maybe all that peace and love stuff didn't work out because look how it all turned out. And it's not their fault, it's the fault of those few angry men that run the world, and that's who we should be fighting against. I don't think you can blame the people that the rebellious souls that they were for being worn out and beaten down and tired by it all. I hope I never end up like that, but it's hard work.
I'm not blaming them, but
I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying we shouldn't be generally.
Yeah, but
I am.
A lot of those people who lived through that period went on to become captains of industry and CEOs and all those other things. So I just feel like generationally, maybe.
But that's the thing about it, isn't it? That's
some of the stuff just didn't last, did it?
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of the thing about it, really, isn't it? It's like this whole idea of you can believe in peace and love and also be a libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
So the belief in absolutes is a very dangerous thing, even if it is belief in peace and love. Do you know what I mean? It's like most of a lot of the problem, as I see it, is that men, especially men in Silicon Valley and the tech industries and all that type of stuff, they seem to think that they can somehow logically they can solve everything with logic. They can use logic to solve humanity, but humanity is inherently illogical. There is nothing logical about people and the way they think and the way they move and the way they react and the way they act. And they do not, they seem to be loath to take into account humanity. And if you don't take into account humanity while trying to make the world better for humanity, then what the fuck are you even doing it for?
That's why we're getting so many robots, Grim. That's what's happening.
And grim robots they are.
Yeah.
It's true though, isn't it? It's people are not one-dimensional. That's the problem. That's the thing. People are complex and emotional and susceptible to things around them and to change. Like, how many people do you know who have a really, really, really strong moral compass and always follow it. Like the one that comes to mind, if you remember the politician Charles Kennedy, he always struck me as someone who knew what he believed in quite quickly and did the things that he said he would do. I never, I don't know if I ever necessarily voted for him or was even old enough to, I can't remember when he was around, but he was just someone where when he spoke, you thought, I don't think he's bullshitting me. I think he really believes what he's saying and he kind of has a moral compass and he sticks to it.
I felt like that. I felt like that about Jeremy Corbyn, right?
True. Yeah, good example. Better, more recent example.
In that, I didn't necessarily always agree with what he said, but I always felt like he was coming from a very genuine place. Like he knew where he stood morally on things. And as I say, I wouldn't necessarily always agree, but I at least felt like I was getting some semblance of honesty from him, or at least authenticity in a way that you don't from most of the other politicians who mainly I wouldn't trust to, like, you know, mind my checkout when I went on my break in a McDonald's or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say I wouldn't trust him to mind my cheese. I was like, how many people?
I wouldn't though. I wouldn't trust him to mind my cheese.
Yeah, that's true. You'd come back and you'd be like, "Where's my double Gloucester gone?"
Absolutely.
It, you pig.
Where's my red
double Gloucester is the worst one. If you have double Gloucester, don't be protecting that shit. It's fucking horrible. You get rid of that. You burn it. You fucking fire it off into space. There is no room in this world for fucking double Gloucester.
Can I be honest with you? I just picked double Gloucester because it sounded funny.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
It's not a nice cheese.
It's rubbery. There is no place in this world. And while we're on the subject, I don't even fucking consider mild cheddar to be a cheese at all. It's a slap in the face of people who like cheese.
It's what dried that milk.
Is.
Mild cheddar is dried milk.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Thanks for listening to the Inner Sleeve podcast. If you like what you hear, please do subscribe and check out headlightsandwhitelines.com to find out more about Lights and Lines, your favourite independent record label. Cheers, guys.